Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Today we're going to see the third part of the political military assessment of Pakistan's armed forces. And in this, it's going to be very interesting because we're going to see the new role of Pakistan armed forces. I won't say a new role, the third role of Pakistan's armed forces, defending God's cause. Let's have a go. Yeah, like I said, to reiterate, we should be very clear when we talk of the Pakistan Armed Forces, we're talking of the army. The Air Force and the Navy are just handmaidens. And they're part of the system which milks the nation and hates India. I said this earlier. This is the crux. As per Stephen Cohen, there are armies which guard the nation's borders, which we've examined already. There are armies which are concerned with protecting their own position in society. We saw that yesterday. And there are armies which defend an idea or cause. The Pakistan army does all three. And today we'll see the third one, defending God's cause. Sorry, my net just went blink. So I'm back and we'll get ahead with the whole story. Right. Let me share the screen and here we go. Okay. I explained to you about Pakistan's two front situation, the Afghanistan front and the Indian front, which will never go away. Right? We'll move on from there. When it comes to protecting their, position in society, I'd explained to you that, there is a center of power and the center of governance in Pakistan. And army is the center of power and the state is the center of governance. And, the army has progressively taken over the state of governance and dominated it while keeping the power with itself. And wars have destroyed the state, but all wars have strengthened the armed forces. And this is what we had covered till about yesterday. And then the army business empire, which actually helps in military and political control of the nation. Right? Then we spoke of the media narratives and the cognitive warfare which they carry out with. And then the power triangle. Okay. But today we're going to talk about defending a cause or an idea and basically defending God's cause. What's this all about? I mean, you have to understand it in its entirety. It's not all about Islam, it's not all about jihadism, but it's a mix of everything. Right. When Pakistan, came into being, it had no history on its birth. It had no idea what it represented, except that it was an Islamic country. No one else knew what the rest of the contours of this nation were blurred. In this period, in the initial stages, the only institution which was strong was its armed forces, right? Uh, in fact, if you go back into history, Pakistan inherited 33% of the British Indian Army, but just about 20% of the other institutions. And the other institutions were only one part of the British government or the British institutions. Most of them were headquartered in Delhi or in India. And the offices of the institutions which they inherited were small subparts. So they were weak. Whereas the Pakistan army was pretty strong. And they simply outgrew all other institutions without any problem. And as other institutions grew, or as other institutions, with, as the armed forces grew, the other institutions withered. And the armed forces grew from strength to strength and they dominated the nation. This is history. I mean, I'm not saying anything new. Right. Then there's this outlook of the Pakistan army and the Pakistan armed forces about India. And this is as per multiple authors. You read any author and you will come to this thing as far as the military is concerned. The common view is Hindus are not good fighters. Kashmir must be won at any cost. And there's always a clique or a gang operating with great optimism that they'll succeed. And there's this small group, which, takes the decision to go to war. Pakistani authors have said and have explained that, this clique took the nation to war in 48, 65, 71, and Kargil. If you examine them, this is what comes out. The other services, civil services, and Air Force and the Navy, and even everyone within the army, most of the people within the army were kept out of the loop. So there's this dangerous, streak in the army where a few guys can take the nation to war. And this is something we have to understand. Now, when this gets mixed with religion, it's a heavy cocktail. And then they gamble for victory. They're very optimistic because they always feel that their plan is infallible and that they'll win. Then Pakistan army has a very exaggerated opinion of itself, that it can't be defeated. And then, and probably the most important thing, the Pakistan army feels it is responsible for its ideological frontiers. Just not the territorial frontiers, but the ideological frontiers of Pakistan. So let's do a little dive into the ideological frontiers of Pakistan. There's this Indian obsession, which I think is a major part of the ideological obsession, or rather, the ideological frontier. As far as they're concerned, struggle with India is existential. There's no choice but to fight. Not repeatedly winning or not winning repeatedly is not the same as losing. They might not win, but they can't seem to be losing. They prefer to take a calculated risk and lose than be seen to do nothing. It's not feasible that a Pakistani army officer or a Pakistani armed forces officer is just sitting and waiting for something to happen from India. They will take this calculated risk against all odds. And they feel it is not worth presiding over a state which gives concessions to India. So, in any negotiation, there is no way they'll yield to anything of yours. It's not worth it. It's better to resist. And as per their thought process, victory is the ability to continue fighting. They have to continue to fight, which is more important than anything else. Okay. Then there's this emergence of the ideological factor or the ideological frontier. And this is what the crux of today's discussion is. In 1949, the Pakistan state, just 2 years after independence, or actually a year and a half after independence, uh, they had a resolution called the Objectives Resolution. In that Objectives Resolution, they declared that sovereignty belonged to Allah, not to human beings, to Allah. This is their thing. It's recorded. It was at that time that Pakistan became an actual Islamic state. Then came the next turn, 1973. They had a new constitution after, the breakup of East Pakistan into Bangladesh. And this new constitution declared Islam as the state religion. These are the pegs of the ideological frontier which came about. When you talk of Pakistan, you have to see these markers and examine the changes which Pakistan went through. Then in 1979, there was a guy called Brigadier S.K. Malik. He wrote this book called The Quranic Concept of War. And as per that, he says the Quranic concept of war is not a theory of man but of God. So it's God which is telling them what to do and teaching them what to do. And General Ziaul Haq emerged at that time as the God's appointee. He was a living incarnation of, the God's appointee. Ki bhai, bheja hai, special representative. Now, what did Zia do? We all know, but let me put it in context just for today, for the assessment of the armed forces. No, it was Zia who enlarged the role of the armed forces from guarding territory to the guarding of the ideological frontiers. It was he who defined the ideological frontiers of Pakistan. Okay. And from here onwards, you see, the moment he did this, around 79, 80, in fact, he did it from, he started the whole story in 74 itself when he took over. From then onwards, hybrid form of fighting became the new norm in the new jihad. So you see, Pakistan already, like I said earlier, already was good at hybrid form of warfare. They showed this hybrid form of warfare in 65 and 48. But till then, it was purely a military affair or a political affair. But from this time, from Zia's time, that turned into an Islamic affair. The ideological front opened up. The hybrid form took the religious tone. That is what we have to understand. So, what is this Quranic concept of war? Let me read some experts' excerpts and people's comments to you. First and foremost, this is God's war-fighting principles and commandments which was released. So, ये भगवान का देन है, Allah का देन है. Okay. Now, according to Malik, Brigadier S.K. Malik, who wrote this Quranic concept of war, The Quran is the revealed word of God as spoken through his chosen prophet Muhammad. So far, so good. It places war fighting doctrine and its theory in a much different category than Western thinkers are accustomed. So their thinking is different because it is not a theory of war derived by man but of God. This is going back to the 100-year war. So this is a whole lot of thinking which is different. Now, as per him, just war or jihad is inherently spiritual warfare. So whenever the Pakistani fights, the way he fights with a spirit. It's spiritual in the name of God. It's no more in the name of Pakistan. And I'll just come to that, how it is so. Okay? Religion, right? Spirit, it is inherently spiritual warfare, religious warfare. Now, here comes the thing to strike terror into the hearts of Islam's enemies. So, anyone who's not from Islam is Islam's enemy, and that chap has to be terrorized. This terror is both physical and metaphysical. Okay? So, it is psychological to a large extent. Islamic warfare is intrinsically part of a cosmic struggle for the reign of Allah's will on the earth between the forces of God, that is Darul Islam, and that of Darul Harb, those who dwell in ignorance and darkness of the true knowledge of God. This is what they write. So, this is also what generally Islam talks of. So, here, this chap, Brigadier Malik, he synchronizes or syncretizes warfare with religion, right? So, 1 minute, just hold the line 1 minute. Sorry, sorry for today's interruptions because there's some people calling me up, very important messages. Right. So we're talking of Darul Harb and Darul Islam. So anyone who's a non-believer has to be fought against. And in this Quranic concept of war, Malik, pins together religion and war fighting. So this is what it is. Now, in this book which he put out, Quranic Concept of War, General Zia gave a foreword. This is the foreword. He says all Muslims play a role in jihad. Jihad, in terms of warfare, is a collective responsibility of the Muslim Ummah. So, what does Ziaul Haq do? He enlarges the scope of jihad from beyond Pakistan to the Muslim Ummah and is not restricted to soldiers alone. It is the Ummah which has to do, just not the Fauj. General Zia's concept of Islamic military professionalism requires godly character, so you have to be pious. Now, Zia endorses Malik's thesis as the only pattern of war or approach to war that an Islamic state may wage. So, Pakistan thereafter never waged a conventional war from the time of Zia. So they are waging a jihad for everything, the Quranic concept of war, whatever you call it. Because he sanctified that this is the only way an Islamic state can fight. Okay. Now what next? In his term, Ziaul Haq did the great switch. The motto of the Pakistan army till then was Ittihad, Yaqeen, Tanzim. That is unity, faith, and discipline. After this book came and after, he became the God's appointee, the motto changes. What does it change to? It's Iman, Taqwa, Jihad fi Sabil Allah. So faith, piety, and holy war in the path of Allah. So it's no more, they're not fighting a normal war at all. And this is something we have to understand. And you connect it up with what I said earlier, you see logic coming in the way Pakistan behaves or its army behaves. Okay, let's talk a little more about Iman, Taqwa, Jihad fi Sabil Allah. It reflects Pakistan's army's dedication to the cause of Islam. That's very clear. Now, as an extension of this, Pakistan's generals, they have built close link with Islamic groups. And in many cases, they've started Islamic groups. They've started LET and Lashkar and Jaish, Islamic groups. They not only had close links, they've started them. Ziaul Haq put together a whole lot of madrasas along the Durand line. At that time, for the Mujahideen, a lot of seminaries. Now, those chaps were either repurposed as Taliban or this side. Okay. Now, with this, what has happened? They have melded the political and the militant part of this whole story together. So now you're looking at an army which is going to fight conventional, it is going to fight political, it is going to fight militant with Islam. So now we are getting into a toxic combination. It's a toxic cocktail. And all these chaps are trained to fight a proxy war in Pakistan's interest. That's the whole story. So, actually speaking, Lashkar-e-Taiba and groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba or Taliban earlier, till it went over to Afghanistan, or Jaish, are sword arms of the Pakistan armed forces handled through the ISI that we know. Now you see the connect. Okay. Islamist militants and their jihad are vital strategic assets of Pakistan's rulers, that is the armed forces. And terrorism is an instrument of state policy. Okay. The next thing which flows out of this is jihad fi sabilillah is not the exclusive domain of the professional soldier, nor is it restricted to application of military force alone. So everything is fair in love and war in this. So the whole story, now you see the ideological frontier coming and fighting God's cause or defending God's cause. Now they are masters of the hybrid. We have to be alive to this. Because of this, whether it's in 48, 65, Kargil, Kashmir, Punjab, these are all classic cases of hybrid war against India. Or for that matter, the Afghanistan wars. First with Mujahideen, then with Taliban. This was classic case of hybrid war against USSR and USA, who paid them to do it. And then the third factor of this hybridity is they carry out training and export terror through their seminaries. This is all recorded. I don't have to say. The Pakistani authors themselves write about all this. Okay. Then, in part of this whole story, ISI is the main tool of hybridity. And this agency is under, though it is supposed to be inter-services agency of Pakistan, it is under the Chief of Army Staff. Remember Faiz, who's now under arrest? He was called back from Afghanistan and then marched up to the Adjutant General and given a reprimand by the chief. It's under the chief. It's not under the even the PM. In fact, the whole problem, political problem of Pakistan is this: the chief just changed the ISI chief. It implements policies set by army planners. The nation doesn't have a say in it. It has a domestic and an external role. Let's be very clear. And it executes the tasks of the nation at the behest of the army. ISI enables political control of the nation. This is important. It is the arm, it's the sword arm of Pakistan armed forces. The uniform sword arm. This is something which we have to understand when we talk of the the socio-military compact of the Pakistan armed forces. Then they have proxies, ISI. The army doesn't have proxies, the Air Force doesn't have proxies, it's ISI which has the proxies. There are constant Indian-oriented proxies like LAT and JEM. And there are offshoots like the TRF, PAFF, which are coming up these days, Kashmir Tigers, name change. And then there are seasonal Afghan-oriented proxies like Taliban, ISKP, AQI. We don't know who's with whom at any point of time. And then they have the internal control through radical elements of mullahs and the TLP. The TLP is Tehrik-e-Labbaik Pakistan is today the most assertive organization within Pakistan. And it gets, freedom from the army. If the army wants, it can shut it, but it will not. Because it keeps the politicians in check. And then the Mulladam, which is completely under the armed forces. What is the strategy? We have seen this for 3 days. Because they have 3 roles: guarding the nation, protecting themselves, and defending God's cause. So, overall, what is the strategy of Pakistan's armed forces? Let's have a look at it. Their op strategy, fundamentally, intervention in India keeps the conflict going free of cost. So, whatever today is happening in J&K, in Jammu, it keeps the conflict going. It doesn't matter them whether the 10, 15 chaps are dead or gone. They're just cannon fodder. And if they can keep the conflict going, it is absolutely at free. There's no cost to it. Then the next thing is they'll combine nuclear, conventional, and proxy capacity so that India cannot afford to retaliate. The price of retaliation is very high from India. Their op strategy is to force India to live with terrorism and insurgency, because if we retaliate, it is tantamount. If we retaliate conventionally, we have to cross Pakistan's nuclear red lines, which they know we will not do. Why? We don't have the capacity to repay them in their own coin. Because we lack that politico-military fusion or thinking to approach Pakistan in a different manner, the political manner. Defeat of Pakistan army, I said, is only feasible politically. You have to think politically. Never forget, Pakistan army may be poor, but the Pakistan armed forces are not poor. I would say, sorry, Pakistan may be poor, But Pakistan armed forces are not poor. They are always kept well trained and well equipped. I showed you in the first presentation how they have used Turkey, China, UAE, USA to build up their arsenal. And now they're selling ammunition to people. They have that capability. Actually, in this whole process, if you see in the past 3 months, some grading, international grading economically, they've gone a little up. So, they'll leverage the army for their economy also. But remember, there's the last word which I have written. They will avoid war at any cost, but the conflict has to continue. Go back to the first line. They will keep the conflict going free of cost for themselves and impose a cost on India, but they will avoid war. They have avoided war ever since 71, if you see, they have avoided conventional war on one pretext or the other. Okay, as far as the hybrid war fighting is concerned, what is it? What are the tenets of this? It will control the state. Hybrid war fighting gives them control over the state because those chaps who can be pushed out can be trained internally also. It involves uninhibited use of terror, jihad, and ideology, which I've explained to you, the Quranic concept of war. It also involves conventional threat and nuclear saber rattling. There is a huge stress on cognitive war and narrative building, which we discussed yesterday. And alliances as a shield and technology infusion will continue, which I discussed day before yesterday. But there are eternal issues which Pakistan can never, get away from. Whatever Pakistan armed forces try, these five issues will always kill them or keep them there. India, which is the biggest issue for them. Then the Baluch rebellion, which is not going to go away. It will not go away under any conditions. In fact, it will keep going back to worse. The Pashtun problem will not go away. It can't be repurposed. You will see the complete Durand line like a jelly. Kabhi idhar, kabhi udhar, but never at peace. Economy will not recover. I've said this many times. Why economy won't recover? Pakistan doesn't have water. Its population is exploding. Their agriculture is declining. They have become a permanent net food importer. Internal radicalism has gone up. That will not go. So the Pakistan armed forces have these five problems. It is up to us to use them. Use them politically. Again, use them politically. Violence has no value in this. Political issues have value in this. What is the paradox of the army? Having said all this, and this is the crux of why Pakistan army cannot collapse. This is written by someone in Rusi, right? Royal United States Institution, Service Institutions, last year. He says there is a lot that is wrong about the Pakistan army. It interferes in politics too much. It makes bad foreign policy choices. It blocks peace feelers with India. It accounts for too much of GDP. It is too deeply entrenched in the economy. its human rights is mixed. However, it is now the main institution which holds Pakistan together. In a country with nuclear weapons, the survival of a disciplined Pakistan army matters to all of us. This is the thinking of the West. The last line, survival of a disciplined Pakistan army matters to all of us. The West will never allow Pakistan to collapse. We need to understand this for this reason. So, in the end, after 3 days, we have to understand the Janus role of Pakistan Armed Forces. It is the destroyer of the nation, also the savior of the nation. The politics have no value. The people see the Pakistan army as the savior of the nation, while it is destroying the nation together. So this double face of Pakistan army is something we have to live with. We have to understand this and say this is what it is. And we need to have strategies to offset that. I finished 3 sessions. I'm sorry there were internet issues due to which I had to come back and off. Even now I'm on my mobile internet. Right? And I had a message coming, so I had to interrupt. But then the larger thing is not that. The larger thing is the issue of the substance of what I've spoken, connected with the first 2 days of what I exposed you to. Right? I hope I've conveyed what I had to convey about the Pakistan army. I'll take some questions now. Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah. Ask General, Sir, while Pakis fool themselves with thinking they protect Allah's cause, but the actual Arabs consider them as converted Punjabis or Sindhis following religions of Arabs. Your views. Look, it doesn't matter what the others consider. Does it matter to us what others think of Pakistan? What matters is how Pakistan behaves. In its self-esteem, they are fighting God's cause. And they are fighting God's cause against India. हमें क्या लेना देना है what the Arabs think of them. Okay, and then the Arabs always turn towards Pakistan. After all, Rahil Sharif still is there. He's the advisor to Saudis. A lot of Saudi training is done by Pakistan. A lot of manning of Saudi equipment is done by Pakistan soldiers, retired, jo bhi hai, whatever the arrangement is. So don't get carried away by all that. We have to assess Pakistan for what it is in our frame. Okay. From Muhammad Gauri to Yahya, Tikka, Musharraf, all are sure that after every defeat, they will be let off to fight again and win to rule over India. Yes, in a way, you're right. Isn't that what I've proven today? The last slide of mine. I'll show you that again. Yeah. Look at this last slide. What does it say? Because they've assumed this role. We forget Gauri Shori and all that. Pakistan army is the destroyer and the savior of the nation. And they hate India. So if you connect these two, it's the same thing. Okay, I agree with what you're saying. I'm in a complete agreement, in fact. Okay. Yeah, I'm increasingly of the opinion that that's not much difference between Islamic nor Sino jihad. Both are chauvinistic ideologies seeking power and domination. That I agree with, but there's a difference. There's a difference. China has done everything for China. Pakistan has done everything for the world. Remember that. It has held everyone to ransom. This way of Pakistani thinking is now going to hold China at ransom. That's the point. Right. Let me go back to where we left. Yeah. Could you invite someone from Air Force to talk about recent increase in fighter plane crashes? Uh, I can, I'll try, but I don't think the Air Force people are very keen on coming for some reason. Not many people come. Yeah, Arunachal. Okay, we'll right. Let's see the next question. Uh, ये देखो. You will not be fighting against Pak army in 2025, a 6-year war. I don't know what he wants to say, but it's okay. As I understand it, the Quran we are referring to was written centuries after the demise of their prophet. Indeed, there were scores of versions. Where is the link to the source? Look, Akash, I don't want to get into this argument at all. I'm not interested when the Quran was written. What is the link? I'm not looking at religion. I'm looking at religion from a political point of view and a military point of view. My entire analysis of the Pakistan army and not the Quran. So we'll not miss the wood for the trees, or we'll not start chasing something which we are not interested in. My interest is how is this fellow using Quran and his Quranic concept of war to hurt India? Why are we studying about Pakistan armed forces? Come to think of it, yeah, studying it so that you can handle him. हमें क्या लेना देना वो बाकियों के साथ क्या करेगा? As far as it doesn't affect us or affect us. If it affects us, we have to learn about it. Sir, I heard they are planning to finish Bajwa now. What's possible? हमें क्या लेना देना? Whether they finish Bajwa or not, वो तो spent case है, वो तो retired आदमी है. What difference does it make? If we were to consider their unsourced standards, then on ideological parameter, the Afghan army would be superior to Pak army, meaning the Pak army. Again, this is all theoretical, Akash. Pak army is there. Whether they're superior to Afghan army or not, I couldn't care a damn because he's going to fight with me. The Afghan army is never going to fight with us. We are going to fight with the Pakistan army. So let's talk of that. Yeah, isn't all this literature you just read is what they did during partition, riots of 1948, 71 Bengali genocide, 1990 expulsion of Kashmiri Hindus, threat to. Yeah, this is the same thing. This is the same story. I have no doubt about it. What you are outlining is the ideological frontier of warfare that they're fighting. Okay, there's no doubt. And we also have to understand there's a huge radical element in Bangladesh which you can't wish away. After all, I mean, look at it. I'm going to talk of it day after tomorrow with Shreya here on Pigurus. I mean, why should Bangladesh have a problem with India at all? It has a problem on certain issues which are fundamental from 1947. That is the issue. Okay. So I agree with you. Uh, how is ISI still strong even though they are bankrupt? Who said they're bankrupt? I told you. Pakistan army is never bankrupt. Uh, Yesterday and day before, yesterday I told them how they are funding themselves. You have to understand this in the larger context. Okay, they are not bankrupt at all. What is the political solution to defeat Pakistan? Retake JNK politically. You do that and you defeated Pakistan. The center point, I said in one of my slides, Kashmir must be retaken at any cost. You retake it. Put them on the back foot. They cannot do anything if you start the political process. But for that, you need to be internally strong. You can't have a coalition government and do that. I mean, Mr. Modi is a strong prime minister. I admire him for that completely. Right? Yesterday, people were probably a little flabbergasted. But just because I have not voted for him doesn't mean I don't admire him and he's not my prime minister. He's my prime minister. And I admire him. I like him. I didn't vote for him for different reasons. But that's a different story. The fact is that Mr. Modi could have done this, say, 2, 3, 4 years back, but he didn't do it. Today, it's virtually impossible for him to do it. Okay, so that's the point. Okay, now look at this from here. Pakistan armed forces are well matched at strategic, operational, tactical level of war vis-a-vis Bharat. Hence, any little chance of any major escalation in future, foreseeable future. Regards, General Saab Rizwan Hussain ji. I'm not interested in fighting with Pakistan. Hey, you are fighting amongst yourselves. The best Pakistan for me is today's Pakistan, where you are looking to the east, where your most popular leader is in jail, okay, where your inflation is in double figures, where you don't have food, where you don't have water, okay, the best Pakistan, where you have to internally keep looking at yourself. And the day is not far when someone will ask for independence in a big way and you have to break up internally and we have to help you do that. It will happen, don't worry. It's time to increase the cost for Pakistan to indulge in propagation of their misinterpretation. Is it time? Yeah. Propagation of their misinterpretations. After all, given the nature of the matter, the whole world is at risk. I don't think the world is at risk anymore from Pakistan the way it was, say, 10 years, 15 years back. Today, you have to start the process of retaking JNK or consolidation of JNK. I'm not saying POJK. We need to consolidate POJK. Consolidation of JNK involves Pakistan occupied JNK and China occupied JNK. For that, you have to have strength. I don't see politically that kind of strength in India. You need to build up that kind of internal strength. If India is internally strong, you will be externally strong. When Pakistan was internally strong, it had an external footprint. Today, China is internally strong. Say 5 years back, 6 years back, 2 years back, it was very strong. It had an external footprint. Today, China is weakening. You see their external footprint is going down. It's all a matter of internal footprint, internal strength. Thank you, General Shankar sir. Welcome. That's what I wanted to explain. I don't know. I mean, whether people will see this video in future or not, I don't know. But this is what I had to say, and I've said it. This is the way I assessed Pakistan Army, and I put it across to the Naval War College students, some of them, and they've liked it. And incidentally, all three links for these three parts are in all three parts description. Any part you see, the description is there of part 1, 2, and 3. And tomorrow or day after, I'll edit this part where that blank part is, I'll take it off and republish it. Pakistan is bankrupt doesn't mean ISI is. I agree with you. Why don't we promote a narrative that creates an awareness amongst Pakistani people that Pak Army is the destroyer of their democracy, freedom, and well-being? They know it. I mean, let's be very clear. They're not fools. The Pakistanis are not fools. They know it. They'll do nothing about it. They can't do anything about it. Your narrative doesn't matter. I think Hindutva counter-propaganda had limited effectiveness in this regard. India needs more secular and state-enabled information warfare strategy. I agree with you. Look, again, I'm not going into politics, but Hindutva has a negative effect outside. We have to understand that. Okay. Hindutva has limitations, huge limitations. And we have to differentiate between Hindutva and Hinduism. Hinduism has got strength, not Hindutva. That's my way. That's the only thing. I mean, different. We need to have this differentiation between what is Hinduism and what is Hindutva. Sir, connect with ex-soldiers and officers. We are. I am. I mean, I've not understood the question. Yeah. How many Brahmins in Indian Army? Why lower caste people never become? I think you're a fool, yeah. Honestly, I think you're a fool because you don't know how many lower caste people have become generals. Yeah. Secularism and democracy is the ideal. Yeah, that I agree with you. We are very secular. I have no shame in saying so. Completely. In fact, I'm proud that Indian Army is secular and we are completely democratic. Should India revive Hindu religious forces? No, it will fail. Religious forces will always fail. Remember that. Reservation in the Indian Army is necessary. Banyas and upper caste can't save India. Again, this is a foolish idea. PM Modi in Brunei visit. What are the positive, negative? We'll see that later. There's nothing. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Akash. Why cannot Bharat threaten Pak Punjab specifically? Say it's 30 cities with 30 strikes of destruction of N type so that it's Pak Punjabi or me falls in line. No, this is not going to be useful because they'll also threaten 30 Punjabi cities. They'll threaten many more. That has got no value. Look, destruction of one city also is too much. In fact, I don't recommend this thinking. Look at this idiot, Harris Khan, complete idiot. This is how India lost 65 war because of Pak Air Force. Have a look at what your authors say, eminent authors. They say that you have lost. You lost all wars as per them. Okay. You are historians, real historians, not propaganda, ISI types. Not the Javed Bajwa said Pakistan army didn't lose 71 also. Your stupid army and your stupid generals have lost half the nation. You're going to lose the rest half of the nation very shortly. The 5 problems which Pak army faces, can you make a video in detail, please? And one on Chinese contribution and control over. Look, I've shown you all the problems which Pakistan army faces. What more do you want? Why do you want a separate video? 3 video to bana diya yaar. What is Pakistan army all about? उससे ज्यादा आपको क्या चाहिए? How can we force China to stop supporting Pakistan army? Answer lies in Kashmir. Political move towards Kashmir, the crux of the whole story. There are talks about infighting in the Pakistan. That is not much. It doesn't matter. Can you bring Yashpal Singh more for critical analysis of Dr. Shankar approach to Pakistan? I have his look. I know Yashpal. Okay, he was my junior. Uh, he's politically motivated, so I'm not interested. I mean, he's got a political leaning. Anyone who has a political leaning will not come on my channel. Pakistan will only behave with somebody who's apparently more powerful. Yes, there's no doubt. Pakistan hates USA and China. Yeah, because पैसा वहीं से मिलता है. Their sustenance is from there. Every Pakistani dreams to go to USA. So yeah, I'm proud that Indian Defense Forces. Yeah, it is. There's no doubt. Yeah, any chance of a civil war or political military fusion with this coalition government in place? Civil or political no, I don't think so. We are poor on that. Let's be very clear. If anything, it is going back to worse. Would West try to impede a reunification of PHOK? They will. They will try their best to. But if you start the political game, they can't do much. Why are we not claiming Balochistan? Didn't they want to accede to India? Again, this got history in this. Actually, part of Balochistan belongs to Oman, and part of Balochistan was never part of Pakistan. Khan of Kalat. Kalat never was, which we must take. Right. I have finished today with the third part of the show. I'm sorry because of a few issues. This was a little mixed up, but then that's part of life. Someday it's good, someday it's not that good. If you like the video, please press the like button. If you could, want to, if looking at Gunner Shot for the first time, subscribe to it, and I'll be grateful. And tomorrow we're going to have a very interesting talk with Dil Narayanan on where is China heading. We've done 3 days. I've done on Pakistan. This is my own research. That's why I didn't call anyone. And I thought I'll put researched facts out to you. And where I have given it to, given this research talk to the Naval War College people, and they've quizzed me quite a bit. After getting feedback for them, I thought I'll put it in the public. Similarly, today I spoke to a set of army officers on China's perception of the border problem. Today I spoke to them. I got a lot of feedback. So I'll take a call maybe next week sometime. I'll talk about that also. Because these days, a lot of people are coming to me and asking me to speak to them. And I'm going to speak, in various think tanks and institutions. And I promise you one thing. That's why I want you guys to subscribe to Gunner's Shot. What I speak to army officers, what I speak to think tanks, what I speak to many other people, I will like to share with you. Show me one channel which promises you this or talks of this. In fact, today I got a call from Economic Times. to take part in their defense conclave on 13th September, but I have my personal commitments, uh, uh, so I couldn't go. Maybe someday I'll go. Maybe I'll go on the thing. Maybe next year. Maybe some other conclave. But with me, I'm very clear. You get researched facts and not fiction. With this, thank you. Thanks for coming on to the show today. Good evening, Jai Hind, and good night.